All right, everyone. Welcome to a late afternoon edition of the Sports and Nothing Else podcast, episode 11, which is
It is
incredible.
episode 11.
We've made it that far. Some of you may not have watched our second episode last week because I couldn't get the tags to work on Facebook. So please know there is an episode 10 with an NBA playoff preview pod, which is already slightly outdated, if we're being honest, because Kyle picked the Clippers to go to the finals. We'll get to that.
It could still happen.
We hope not, though. Kyle, how are you today?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good. How you doing?
Good. I'm actually really good, and we'll get to that because the sports have treated me well the last couple of days. Except for Zach Plesac breaking his thumb, taking his shirt off.
That has to be a cover story.
Oh my! No, I don't think it is though, because I think everybody saw it happen. Anyhow, we're taping this on Wednesday at about 5:20 Eastern, so that's where we're at. The Lakers and the Clippers played late last night, which we're going to get to in a second. So we're actually going to start with NBA. A lot of NBA lately. I promise that won't always be how it is, those of you that don't like the NBA for various reasons. But we're going to start with it. It's playoffs. Give me some reactions. Go.
All right. Do you want to just go kind of matchup by matchup, or what do you want to do?
Sure. You start. Start where you want to start.
All right. So I'm going to start in the East because I think the East is really boring, and I think half the series are already kind of done.
Beat done.
Yes. Philly, Washington was done before it started.
Yeah, done.
Brooklyn and Boston done before it started, and definitely done now. And Atlanta and New York, honestly, is probably my second favorite series that's going on right now. Randall obviously has to be better than in game one. What a disaster with how good he was. He did win most improved this week. But they're not going to be able to rely on role players to do what they did in game one, and they still lost. So he's going to be a lot better. But Atlanta looked great. Trae Young, and you can talk about that, but Trae Young looked awesome. Not Luka, but he looked really good.
Well, and that's the deal. I've long been a critic of Trae because I don't think that his first couple of years in the NBA were winning basketball, and the records bear it out. He's an empty stats guy. He has been. But I watched most of that game. He was awesome. Like, made the right plays, set his teammates up. And it does help that he has better teammates. Honestly, he has better teammates than Luka does now. And both of them.
I don't even think it's close. I mean, they're 7 or 8 deep and legit guys.
And I texted you the other night as that game was going on, like, how dumb do the Suns and the Kings feel? Because they passed on both those guys. To draft Marvin Bagley, who's not going to be on the Kings in a couple of years, and Ayton, who had a really nice game one, but Ayton is not even close to either of those guys. Just not.
No, he's a good NBA player and a pretty good center, but
a great fifth pick, not a first pick.
Or in that draft, a great third pick.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you can argue that the Suns' most important player from that draft is Bridges, not Ayton, and that's a problem. Speaking of which, Bridges would be a great guy for the 76ers to have, and they traded him on draft night for no good reason.
When they had his mom on staff.
Well, it's a mess. I think we've covered that once.
It was Zaire Smith, wasn't it, that they got for him?
Ugh, not good. Who I thought was really good, but he's not. So yeah, I agree with you. My friend Andrew Lopez, who listens to this podcast and works with me and for me, I informed him yesterday. He was a big Heat fan. I said, that's a sweep. He disagrees with me, but it's a sweep. Go put money on that. It's a sweep.
It is. And game one, I think, was the backbreaker. I mean, if Miami steals game one, you've got the Giannis jitters again. You've got all the Milwaukee fans nice and clenched up thinking, wow, this is going to happen to me again, that we have no way to improve. We're going to get bounced in the first round. And now it looks like the Heat are going to get swept. And what the heck what happened to Tyler Hero?
I don't know.
I mean, a year ago, go ahead.
No, go.
I'm just going to say a year ago, they wouldn't trade him for the best players in the NBA, and now he's hardly even playing in the playoffs. That's rough.
That game reminds me, not in the way that it was played, but of the year with LeBron and the J.R. Smith game when the Cavs had to steal game one in Golden State and couldn't do it, and then that series was immediately over. This series is over. Milwaukee's been way better than the Heat all year and has been getting better. I think it's a 5-game maximum series. Brooklyn, that was never, the Celtics have laid down all year. How are they going to beat the best team in the NBA? And the Wizards are fun, but it's when things get serious, that's not a serious team.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and boy, have you noticed the difference between Bledsoe and Drew Holiday. I mean, Bledsoe, who was fine normally during the regular season and just an absolute disaster in the playoffs, has been replaced by probably the best wing defender in the NBA, maybe behind Ben Simmons, and a guy that can actually score. You can run pick and roll and have Middleton off to the side. I mean, they look a million times better, and honestly, probably would be my pick to come out of the East if anything happens to Brooklyn.
Yep. Well, and Giannis can't create in the half court, really, when it really is time. And so to have two guys in Middleton and Holiday who can kind of do that in the clutch, you just let Giannis run amok during the rest of the game. That's a pretty good situation.
Yep.
We did want to also mention the Knicks game. Man, is it nice to have playoff crowds back. It was electric in there. And that's actually, we're going to go have some bets later. That's one of my bets. I think the Knicks respond well to the home crowd tonight. So anyhow, that's the East. There's really only one interesting series, which is often how the first round goes, and that's how it's going to go there, I think. But let's go to the West, because, ooh, man, do I love the West right now. You got something you want to say?
I mean, the West is essentially the opposite of the East right now, in that every single series is up for grabs, except maybe, oddly, the Clippers series, which is, you're going to be thrilled. I'm not going to steal any of your thunder there. I'm really excited about, my very favorite series in all of the playoffs right now is the Lakers-Suns. I didn't stay up for that whole game last night. In the first half of the Lakers were beating them to death as far as size is concerned. They weren't beating them to death in the scoring, but if Chris Paul doesn't at least become a semblance of what he was during the regular season, they're in some trouble there.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to still be a bloodbath. And the way that they've guarded LeBron has been really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's totally right yet. But the problem the Suns have, especially if Paul's not going to be able to go to super duper star level, is that the Lakers have two guys that can flip a switch on when they need to, theoretically, and the Suns don't have those guys. And so I think the Suns are a better team from 1 through whatever, but the Lakers have the two best guys in the series. And at a certain point, that usually wins. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a 5-game series, because I think the Lakers can just close them out. If the Suns don't have Chris Paul at 100% closing games, I just don't see it for them. I love Booker. I like Ayton. I like Bridges. I like a lot of guys on their team, and their future is bright, especially if they had drafted Doncic or Trae Young. But I don't know. I don't see it.
But the other big issue that
they've been a really good team all year.
The other big issue that you saw very clearly last night was their lack of front court depth. They don't have a backup center. They don't really have a backup power forward that you can trust at all. I mean, the first quarter that Saric played after his name got kicked right into Johnson, that was one of the worst quarters of basketball that I've ever seen anyone play in my entire life. He missed every shot that he took. He turned the ball over every other time he touched the ball. He played horrendous defense. He looked lost, looked terrified. And your only other option to go after Crowder is Cam Johnson, who's just going to get destroyed by Anthony Davis, is a problem.
Yeah. It was the worst possible matchup for them. It really was. And they should really be mad at the Warriors for not winning that playing game, because they needed them to. And I think probably would have mopped the floor with the Warriors. But, oh well. Let's go to the Clippers. Let's not even hold it off any longer. Listen. This is the least likable team in the NBA. And honestly, the Clippers have been that way for a long time. But you get these two guys together. Paul George forces his way out of another situation, having won nothing, absolutely nothing. And Kawhi, who is more likable than Paul George, also forces his way out again. I mean, he's a free agent, so he can do what he wants, but that's after forcing his way out of the Spurs. And they get to the Clippers and immediately act like they should be given just a little red carpet laid out in front of them, like they've won, and they haven't. Won nothing. Everyone thinks they're the best team in the NBA for really 2 years in a row in a lot of ways. And they tank at the end of the year to lose to two of the worst teams in the NBA, so they can play Doncic. And Doncic is eating them for lunch. And if you look at that Mavericks roster, it is pitiful. It's not a good roster. It's just not. Like, but right now, Tim Hardaway Jr. is out playing Paul George, playoff P, pandemic P. So awesome. one of my least favorite players. And Doncic is just killing them. The guy's 22 years old. Kyle, he's 12 years younger than I am. And he looks like he has been winning championships for forever. It's incredible. It's incredible. And this is how stupid the Clippers are. Paul George said, no, we're not worried. We're fine. But we're going to have to step it up or else, it's like, yeah, or else you're going to get swept right out of the playoffs by the team you decided you wanted to play. Ty Lue said, well, yeah, they won here, but let's see how they do at home, as if playing at home is harder than playing on the road.
And
Texas doesn't believe COVID exists. There's going to be a full stadium. It's going to be rocking. I hope they sweep them. This is so great. It's so great. It makes me so happy.
I figured this rant would be longer than 20 minutes, but it's also the first time that Luka's ever played a home playoff game with fans, which is going to be really exciting, or at least one where he was any good at all other than his rookie year. I don't even know if he was in the playoffs his rookie year. So I think it's going to be a blast to watch. I think this honestly could end up being a sweep if they win game 3. And Luka literally looks like a combination of young LeBron, actually a combination of older LeBron, because LeBron kind of looks fat right now, and Luka always looks fat, and Larry Bird.
Yeah.
Because did you see that? I mean, the shot, the 3 that he hit fading to the left off of 1 foot and just made it look like it was a little floater. It's really incredible. No, he went 2 for 7 from the line yesterday. Could have actually easily gone over 40. Just incredible. The one caveat with this series, though, is that their role players are shooting 43%. Non-Luka are shooting 43% from 3.
Which is a lot.
You got to think that's going to cool off a little bit. But no matter what they've thrown at Luka, hasn't even been close to stopping him.
But this is the deal again. I'm a believer in this. Paul George is like lots of athletes that I've played with. I will name none of them. He looks, when things are going right, like the best player you've ever seen. And when you really need him, can't count on him at all. Can't count on him one bit. And so in Dallas, down 3 with 4 minutes to go, do I think Paul George is going to lead the Clippers anywhere besides to the toilet? No. And you know how in The Grinch, where his heart grew 3 sizes that day? If the Dallas sweeps the Clippers, my heart will grow 30 sizes that day. I am so excited. I will be so thrilled if the Clippers lose to Dallas after tanking to get to them. It makes me so happy. I could talk about it for the rest of this podcast. It makes me so happy.
And perfect example of Paul George. So early in that game when the pressure was not on and he got Porzingis switched onto him in a one-on-one, he destroyed him, literally made him fall down like it was a meme for a while. And then late in the game when he got Porzingis switched onto him one-on-one, crossed him over, took a pull-up, terrible jump shot, missed it.
Meanwhile, Tim Hardaway Jr. was like the second best player on the Mavs, just draining threes. It's hilarious. Yep. And it should be mentioned, they inked Paul George to a long extension this offseason, but Kawhi can leave, and they mortgaged their whole future to bring Paul George and Kawhi in. And if Kawhi leaves, and it's just Paul George and a really crappy roster, honestly.
Well, they can't even improve their roster because they're paying Kennard and they're paying Morris and
Ibaka. They're paying tons of guys that aren't really doing anything for them.
Zubac.
If they
Zubac. Whatever
the
it is.
Thunder have to be cheering so hard for this to blow up and Kawhi to leave because they have all their picks. Mm-hmm. Not to mention a guy that's better than Paul George that they got in that trade when chips are all on the table. You'd rather have Shai right now with his future ahead of him than what Paul George is. I honestly believe that. So that trade is wild. Anyhow, we got to keep going because otherwise I'm just going to talk about the Clips for an hour and I'm going to miss dinner. If the Clips come back and win 2 in Dallas, we're not having a pod next week because I'll be depressed. But for now, we're good. All right. Nuggets, Blazers, you can try to figure that series out. Do your best. I think every game is a toss-up.
Yeah, and I mean, it honestly just comes down to how the Blazers shoot. Basically their strategy has been make Jokic score and not pass and distribute. And if he's going to score 45, they're still going to lose. And if he's going to score 32 and have no assists, the Blazers are going to win. So it
comes down to shooting for both teams because Michael Porter shot the ball better the other night, and they won. He was 1 for 10 from 3 in the first game, and they lost. He's going to have to score, and he's going to have to create some stuff because they're not going to let Jokic just hit him with wide open cross-court passes all day. And Lillard and McCollum, it's the same thing. If they shoot the lights out, I don't know how Denver matches them. But there's high variance with jump shots, and so I have no idea what to think with that series. I really don't. But because the best player in the series is going to vary from game to game too. Could be 3 different guys really. So I don't know. And then the last one is I'm blanking.
Utah, Memphis.
I don't trust Utah. That's all I'll say about that.
I'm very much rooting for the Grizz because I love the Grizz, and they're like 10 deep. I mean,
Triple J.
Justice Winslow, and Brandon Clark got DNP'd in the first game.
Can't play them.
And they're actually legit role players.
Yeah, they'd play on like the Clips, for instance. Suns.
I also hate Rudy Gobert, and if any of you watched that game, he literally flopped after he'd fouled out of the game on the sideline. So I hope they lose. And the people that actually think he's legitimately one of the top 15, even top 20 players in the NBA, get out of here. You're telling me that you wouldn't rather have –
is the problem.
I mean, if you're going to vote for him over Bam Adebayo as your third All-NBA center –
maybe.
I can tell you I would much rather have Bam.
Yeah. Well, listen. You know who's with us? Vernon Maxwell. We would very much like the Grizz to win that series also. And that's actually going to be one of my bets as well, but we'll get to that in a little bit. So anything else you want to say about the playoffs? Anything tonight? There are 3 games, by the way, which is a lot of fun. And they are Washington and 76ers. Don't waste your time. Stay up late and watch the other games. Oh, actually, it's 7:30. Hawks Knicks. Watch that game.
Yep.
And then Grizz Jazz. By the way, something that should be mentioned. If the Bucks had gotten Bogdanovich instead of the Hawks, that whole mess, the Bucks are the best team in the NBA because that guy is awesome. He's awesome. I really enjoyed watching him the other night.
And do you know who they spent that money on? It ended up being Brent Forbes and Bobby Portis and DJ Augustine. Now, Brent Forbes was great in game 2, but holy smokes. And you don't even have Augustine anymore. You basically flipped him for, rough.
But anyhow, too bad. But honestly, in retrospect, probably was never going to happen because they basically broke the rules and Bogdanovich didn't agree to it. So, but Bogdanovich is awesome. I look forward to watching him again tonight, but I hope Randall is better. Okay. I'm going to call someone because we have a special guest coming on, but keep going. Give us your animal fact for the week.
All right. It's going to be a quick one. And I am going to be back to crow facts next week. We're going to do monkey facts this week. So there's I was going to say brand. It's clearly a breed, or I don't even know if it's a breed, whatever you want to call it. There's a type of monkey in Japan that eats a lot of sweet potatoes, and they started learning to wash their sweet potatoes in water. They did it in fresh water at first to clean them so they weren't getting disease and also tasting a little better, I would assume. They were observed switching to salt water. They started washing their potatoes in salt water strictly for the taste. There was no other benefit. They literally just figured it out. Seasoning is better. So for those of you who don't know how to use seasoning, get your lives together. The monkeys know how to do it. Secondly, if you didn't see the video of the monkeys floating around this week of them in like one of those little toy plastic cars, I think it was a little plastic Jeep, the little battery powered kids ones. And they have a little dog in the back seat. There's 2 monkeys, and they literally treat it like a child. Like they're backing up, they've got their hands around it, and they make them sit down. And then they're going forward, and they're literally petting the dog as they're going around this little driveway. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen. So along the monkey route there, check that video out.
All right, I'm trying to get our special guest, but I'm going to watch that video for sure.
That's awesome.
For those videos. Micah, you're supposed to be in here. All right, sorry for the delay. We're going to start a new thing. No cake. Start a new thing. This is our oldest, Micah. Okay, you gotta go out, honey. We'll get you on here. All right. Sorry for this delay. We're not editing it out. This is my life. So we're starting a new thing. We did the top 10 NBA players last week, and we realized we like making lists. So we're going to do a top something every week. By the way, if you have ideas for this, send them to us. We'll do them. So this week, top 5 animated movies of all time, in our opinion. So we'll each count down from 5, and then Kyle and I have an honorable mention section as well. Mm-hmm. So our guest of honor will go first. Micah, what is your 5th favorite animated movie of all time? Frozen 2. Frozen 2. All right, Kyle, what's yours?
I've got where am I at here? The Rescuers Down Under.
Rescuers Down Under. Quality. You're going to tell from these what era we're from, because Micah doesn't even know what the Rescuers are.
Hey, we did talk about that we were going to watch it while we're down there. So, Micah, hold him to that. You're watching it this week.
Okay.
And then Aristocats.
Yeah, that'll be in the honorable mention for sure. So, number 5, I actually had a late edition, so I have 2 number 5s. Sorry, 5A, 5B. 5A, How to Train Your Dragon.
Ooh,
5B, Space Jam. I don't know if Space Jam is totally an animated movie, but I shoehorned it in at the last second. So
I think it counts.
I'll take it. All right, Micah, your 4. 4 is?
Trolls World Tour.
Trolls World Tour. All-time classic. That music we played for weeks in our house. All right, Kyle, what's your number 4?
I've got Chicken Run at number 4, Claymation.
Chicken Run. Chickens are organized. All-time classic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I picked Toy Story for 4. Toy Story 1, the OG. It's a good one. The rest are good too, but you can't beat the first one with Buzz. Mm-hmm. All right, Micah, number 3. Moana. Another prominently featured soundtrack in our house. Kyle?
This is number 3. Uh-huh. I've got Coraline.
Coraline. Interesting. Kyle has an interesting taste. He's much more refined than the rest of us. I have Despicable Me. Speaking of not refined.
That's a great one, though.
Get me every time. Every time. Despicable Me. Love it. All right,
speaking of which, have you ever met a Minion person? I've noticed that there's just randomly Minion people out there who's like, you know how there's the horse girl?
Mm-hmm.
Or like the cat lady? There are Minion people out there whose entire lives revolve around Minions. I used to work with one who literally, I think 90% of what she told me, Minions.
Interesting. I have not met one of those. No.
Stay away.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, Micah, number 2.
Cats in the Great Barrier Reef.
So Kyle's laughing because this is like all the rage in our house right now.
Yeah. It is. We watched this last week together. It was awesome.
Yeah. And we could sing the song, but we're not going to. Nope. No, Mike's not doing that. Kate would do it for you. So that's number 2 for Micah. Octonauts and the Great Barrier Reef. Kyle, what's your number 2?
All right. I've got Spirited Away. It's called Spirited Away. It's a Japanese cartoon movie, and it's one of the top-rated animated movies of all time. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's fantastic.
Okay, maybe I'll give that a chance. Mine was Disney's Robin Hood.
Ooh.
Robin Hood, all-time classic. Micah kind of puts up with it. So there's that. All right, and we're to our number 1. This is a big one. Micah, what's your number 1 all-time favorite animated movie?
How to Train Your Dragon.
Ooh.
How to Train Your Dragon. That's big in the Bachman house. What do you sleep with every night?
Toothless.
Toothless stuffed animal. Kate has a toothless pillow pet. We are very How to Train Your Dragon heavy in this house. So that's Micah's top 5. What do you like most about How to Train Your Dragon?
Toothless.
Okay, there you go.
Toothless.
All right. Kyle, number 1. What's number 1 on your list?
WALL-E.
Well, I knew that's what you were going to say. WALL-E.
Yep. Gets me every time. We watch it every year. Makes me cry.
Yeah, I've still never seen it.
Why?
It's
a very good movie.
Yeah. We'll have to watch that one sometime soon, Micah. Okay. Disney Plus it up. All right, and Daddy's number 1 all-time animated movie, Wreck-It Ralph. Love Wreck-It Ralph. I host a couple sports camps every summer. We watch it every single time. It's the best. So that's our list. Micah, thanks for coming on. You want to say bye to Uncle Kyle?
Bye-bye.
See you,
All right.
Micah.
That's Micah, our oldest. All right, less chaos now. Give me your honorable mention. You can
Do you
go
want all of
if you want.
You want all of them?
I have like 12.
All right, I've got, let's
Yeah.
see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 10.
Okay.
And they range from children's movies to not children's movies. All right. So, number 1, Aristocats.
On my
Sure,
list.
that's on your list.
Yep.
Number 2, Monsters Inc.
On my list.
Bam. Number 3, I have Toy Story, which was on your real list. Number 4, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Nope.
It's a great one. Number 5, Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I still have never seen that, but I plan to watch it.
Oh, it's great. George Clooney.
Yeah.
Then I've got How to Train Your Dragon, which was on there. Then we moved to more of like the modern, kind of along the lines of like a Family Guy type cartoons, but they're movies. Or I guess this one really isn't, but Love, Death, and Robots, which is on Netflix if you like something fairly intense that's fantastic. Beavis and Butthead Do America.
On my list.
Team America World Police.
Not on my list.
South Park.
A little much for me.
And then A Scanner Darkly, which is a Keanu Reeves movie that's halfway animated.
Interesting. Would you like to hear the rest of my list?
Absolutely.
Okay, so Frozen 2, The Incredibles, Lion King, Tangled, Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. If you don't have that on your list, you don't know what you're talking about.
That's actually my bad. That should be on my list.
Yeah, I know it should. Shrek, the Lego Movie, Emperor's New Groove,
Oh,
Lilo and Stitch.
that's a solid list.
Those are our animated movies. You'll notice that one of us is a parent of little kids because some of those movies wouldn't make it otherwise, but we watch them a lot. Music in Frozen 2 is actually pretty deep and excellent. That's why it's on my list. So there you go. Plus Olaf. Come on. All right. That was our list for this week. We'll try to have special guests on as much as possible, like we have the first 2 times we've done that. Now I got to find my rundown. All right, here we go. I want to talk a little bit about baseball. So we thought we'd do it by doing our not quite a little more than 1/4 of the way through the year awards. So, Kyle, I'm interested in what you have on some of this. Let's get Rookie of the Year out of the way in both leagues. It is a terrible crop of rookies. Terrible. Mm-hmm. Did you write anything down for these?
Yeah, so Rookie of the Year in the AL, I have Randy Rosarina, who's been super hot lately, as have the entire Rays team. And I'm interested to see what Wander Franco does once he comes up because they traded Willie Adames last week-ish.
The problem is they have 3 good shortstop prospects, and they called one of them up already. But we'll see. They also have Brujan, who's hitting tons of homers, and he's on the same team as Wander Franco, and they're just raping. So it's pretty cool.
And it's hard not to mention currently the AL batting average leader, Yermin Mercedes. I have no idea if I'm saying that correctly, but I'm going to go with that.
I have 3 White Sox with question marks next to them, but I have a Rosarina at the top. Kopech, Nick Madrigal, and Yermin Mercedes. But I think a Rosarina with the power and the potential is at the top of the list right now. Mm-hmm. But the White Sox have had to get a lot of help from a lot of those guys because of all the injuries. And they're still winning the division, which is terrifying and the worst. I think in the National League there's only one answer, but I'm interested to see if you have it.
Well, I have not watched a lot of National League baseball this year, and honestly, not as much AL baseball as I would like to watch because the Twins suck, although they've won 4 in a row. So we're headed in the right direction. So I don't actually know at all what Brian Hayes' stats are currently.
He's only played the first day of the season and has not played since.
Has not played since? Okay, well, we're going to go Sixto Sanchez and Ian Anderson then.
No, it's Jazz Chisholm by probably a wide margin. The guys hitting leadoff for Miami. Sixto and Ian Anderson have been fine. I have them on fantasy teams. They're fine. But Jazz Chisholm right now is the clear favorite. It's been a really disappointing year for rookies. Dylan Carlson, Ryan Mountcastle, even Anderson's not been real exciting. Alec Baum, I'm not sure he was even qualified, but he has not been good. This is really more from a baseball card perspective. Joey Bart hasn't played because Buster Posey is all of a sudden 2012 Buster Posey again. A lot of guys. So kind of a mess baseball card wise, but that's okay. All right, Cy Young.
All right, in the AL, I think it's going to be Garrett Cole, just because they're hitting and he's been great. But you could also make the argument for Bieber, who's far and away leading in strikeouts, Glasnow, who's still been great, and Lance Lynn, who's leading in ERA.
Yep. Apologies to two White Sox, Lance Lynn and Carlos Rodon. It's Garrett Cole, who is awesome and pitches in a far superior division offensively.
And massively a hitter's ballpark.
Yes, it's Garrett Cole, probably by a ways at this point. And no offense, Shane Bieber is not there right now. He's been fine, but not a lot of strikeouts, but too many runs. Mm-hmm. National League, I think there's an obvious answer, even though he spent a few days on the shelf lately.
DeGrom or Kershaw?
Not Kershaw's not close. It's DeGrom. It's DeGrom easily. His ERA is still under
1.081 currently.
Yeah, I mean the guy. I was reading a funny story. He rehabbed in single A and was clearly feeling fine. Was throwing 102 in the first inning against single A guys. So that went well for them. It's unbelievable. So with apologies to Jack Flaherty, who's 8-0, Brandon Woodruff, Yu Darvish, I think it's DeGrom probably by a lot still. And he did start yesterday, so he's back. He also hits. Doesn't matter in the Cy Young, but so does Flaherty, actually. All right, MVP. I'm interested to see what you think on this. Because the NL, let's start in the NL because it's hard. The NL is tricky. I think go ahead.
They've both spent a little bit of time out, but I think it's still Acuna or Tatis to lose. I mean, Tatis is now leading the league in stolen bases, on top of hitting, 4 home runs since he's been back in a week and a half. And Acuna, who has missed some time, is still leading the league or leading the NL in home runs and still hitting almost 300
and runs. And yeah, I mean, here's the deal. Acuna and Tatis are the same player. They're very streaky. They play with a ton of flair. They play really hard, which means they're going to get banged up some during a year, 162-game season. But there are going to be weeks where literally they carry an entire team. And that was Tatis coming back off the COVID list. And it was Acuna the first couple weeks of the year. And then he slowed down, and then he got hot a little bit. Now he's slowed down a little bit. But he's still the best player in the National League, I think. So I have Acuna down. But him and Tatis might slug it out all year for it. I don't really see a lot of other options. Like, sorry, Jesse Winker, you're not going to win the MVP. A few guys like that. It's not going to happen. AL is more interesting. I think it's a 2-person race right now. Who would you have on top?
I actually think it's 3.
Okay.
Vlad Guerrero, Trout, and Ohtani. And Trout and Ohtani are on arguably the worst team in the AL. But
Trout's also going to miss the next 2 months, so you can cross him off.
So, yeah, that's fair. But yeah, Vlad Guerrero has been insane. And Ohtani, it's really hard to argue with both offensively and as a pitcher. He's been really, really good.
Yep. I have Vlad because I think Ohtani's offense is slipping. He's down to about 260, and Vlad is just raking. I actually had a dream last night. It's true that Vlad hit. I saw it in my score app that Vlad hit 5 home runs in a game, and the Blue Jays scored 31 runs. And I actually, because of how good Vlad is, I actually believed it and woke up and checked to make sure he didn't hit 5 home runs last night. Just the one off Kluber. So it's Vlad by a hair because Ohtani hasn't thrown that many innings. If he keeps throwing the way he is and it's 48 home runs, then I don't know how he doesn't win it. But for now, it's Vlad because of how much higher his average and so on is. Plus the Angels, gosh, they're so terrible. It's depressing. Mm-hmm. I will say I made 5 division bets, legit bets with my own money to start the year. 4 of them look great. I bet the White Sox to win the division. They're going to win. I bet the Rays to win the AL East at plus 420. I feel pretty good about it. I bet the Braves to win the NL East. They're now only a game out despite having massively underperformed. And the Mets' whole team is hurt, so I'm not really worried about them. And I bet the Cardinals, who also struggled a little bit lately, but are winning the East. The 5th team I bet is the Los Angeles Angels, and that bet's already over. This is ridiculous. So frustrating. Just wasting Mike Trout year after year, and now he's hurt, and it's over.
It probably is, but here's the thing: that division's still not good.
It's
And the one thing that I did want to touch on, and we're basically at the 50-game mark. At least some teams are. Plus minuses or run differentials kind of mean something at this point as far as gauging if the team's actually good. So a couple points that I wanted to run through. One, the A's are not actually good. They're minus 14.
No, they're bad.
They're not playing great baseball. That division is still wide open. It's probably Houston's to take because there's no one else that's good at all. I mean, the Mariners are minus 49 in third place somehow. The Twins are not as bad as everyone thinks. They're minus 14 right now, won for their fourth game in a row. They're still not going to make the playoffs, but this is not the worst team in baseball, and I'm going to defend that until they are the worst team in baseball in a couple of years. Which
they're not, because the Tigers are in their division and are definitely worse. Definitely
correct.
White Sox. Candelario hits third on the Tigers every day. It's ridiculous.
White Sox are great, plus 73. That team's going to go nowhere but up as they get healthy this year, which is depressing, and I'm not happy about it. The Rays were basically even a week and a half ago and are now plus 49. So.
Well, that's what I like your bet there. Games in a row.
The NL East sucks. The Mets are winning and are minus 12, which looks pretty good for your Braves bet.
Cameron Maben hit third the other night for them,
which is a disaster. Shouldn't be hitting third in AAA.
No, or on your little team.
I'd take him on the little league team.
Sure.
The same with the NL Central though. The Cardinals are winning at plus 2. The Cubs look to be very much closing that gap, which is not a great sign. And the Reds are hitting the cover off the ball and still not winning games, thanks to Luis Castillo with like almost an 8 ERA as their ace. Ugh. And then the last 3 points, the Padres and Dodgers are both obviously on fire, plus 79 between the two of them, which is tops in baseball. And then the Pirates at a negative 79 are the worst team in baseball.
Yeah, Pirates are horrible. And the Giants are going to quickly fade into, as Mike Tyson would say, Bolivian. They're that's it. That's enough.
Although at this point are pretty firmly in the wild card spot, although there's a lot of baseball to play.
Is top heavy for sure.
Yep.
Okay. That's baseball. I've been watching a lot of Indians, but here's the thing. Before Zach Plesac had a displaced fracture in his thumb taking his shirt off, they were 1 starting pitcher short. They're now 2 starting pitchers short, which is incredibly depressing considering just 2 years ago they had Corey Kluber, Trevor Bauer, Carlos Carrasco, and Mike Clevenger on their staff. That would be the best rotation in baseball, probably, especially if you took Bauer off the Dodgers, which have the best rotation in baseball. This is so frustrating.
Although most of them would be hurt right now. Clevenger's out for the year. Kluber just is getting an MRI on his shoulder.
You're right.
Carrasco has hardly pitched.
Yeah, it's fair. But maybe if they were in Cleveland and they were bored and had nothing to do, they would have taken care of themselves and then they wouldn't be hurt because it's Cleveland. So anyhow, that's it. I'm depressed. And the Indians are 6 games over 500, which is absurd because they're not any good. And they're lost Franmil Reyes and Zach Plesac this week, which is bad. Anytime your offense cannot come back from losing Franmil Reyes, that's how you know you suck.
It's a problem.
It's a problem. All right. Things we hate. Kyle doesn't really have one this week, except he's going to hear mine, and he's going to totally agree, and then we're just going to work on it for a minute. Things I hate. This is very high at the top of my list. I've been saving it. The Bachelor. The entire Bachelor franchise, I hate with a burning passion. Here's the thing. If you were from another country or outer space, and someone said, hey, we need to show you what's wrong with America, you just say, here, just watch this television program for a little bit, and then you will know. It's all selfish people who have no idea how to be a real adult human being. They treat each other like trash. The premise of the show is morally and completely bankrupt. The fact that you would think like, oh, you know what we'll do? At the very end, we'll sleep with 3 people, and then we'll get rid of one of them immediately, and then the last person has to realize that their girlfriend or boyfriend slept with a bunch of other people just a couple of weeks ago and is now proposing to them. It's hard to imagine, but none of those things ever work out. I don't have any idea why. And then like people watch it and are like, oh yeah, this is how love actually works. Like, no, this is not even, none of this is how any of this works. And that's why our divorce rate in this country is like 50-some%. So if you watch The Bachelor, fine. I don't care. Have a glass of wine and laugh at the dumb people who just want more Instagram followers. But if you watch it and think like, oh, these are really great, nice people. I wish I was like them. No, you don't. They're the worst. That's all. That's my Bachelor rant. Would you like to add to it?
Other than that, it's the absolute worst. I don't have a ton. My wife is obsessed with it, which means every single Tuesday. What is it? Tuesdays? I think it's Tuesdays.
It's Monday.
When it is on Monday, they watch it on delay because they all get off work at different times. So every Tuesday, there is a literal flock of females at my house watching this. So I go down to the basement, or I go over to my friend's house, whose wife is part of that flock, and we watch basketball or baseball, or I hang out in the basement with Sullivan and,
who cares?
And try to save our ears. It sounds like the actual Super Bowl at our house, except it's literally just Bachelor.
Yeah. So Mondays pre-COVID, I played basketball every Monday night, and that was my solution. But now, just trapped inside my home watching the worst program on television. So look, don't get fooled by that show. Everything is all manipulated by the producers of the show. It's the worst. It's terrible. And then you know what happens? The guys, because they're guys, only care about one thing. And so that relationship is over almost immediately, almost always, because it's not going to work. Because to be married, you actually have to like have a decent personality and care for the other person and compromise and stuff. Because marriage is hard, even if you like pick the person, not by a show like The Bachelor. And then usually probably the guy messes up the other one too, where the girl picks them. But the girls usually have a better success rate because girls are more relational than guys who are just miserable. So I hate The Bachelor. I hate it immensely. And that's my thing I hate for this week. That's all. You want to add anything more, or we pretty much hit it?
I think we're done.
Low-hanging fruit. But it's like the most popular show on TV. And it gives me great fear for our country. That's all. All right. NBA bets. You got two for us, right? One for tonight, one for tomorrow night.
All right, let me decide on my one for tonight because I only picked one for tomorrow night initially. We're gonna go. I'm gonna go Bucks -2 at -110.
Bucks don't play tonight.
Oh, that's Thursday. Well, I'm gonna add that to my Thursday then. Let's go. Oh, Grizzlies +10 at -114 all day. I think the Grizzlies are going to win straight up. Absolutely.
That is my main one. I looked at that and I went, hold on. I think the Jazz might win, but I don't see them blowing the Grizz off the court. They're just not that kind of team. And I think the Grizz are more athletic than they are. And every year there's a team in the playoffs that you very quickly go, oh, that was a regular season team. And to me, that's the Jazz in this playoffs. Mitchell's still probably not 100%. That's a whole saga. And I honestly think John Morant's the best player in the series. So give me the Grizz +10. And then I think the Hawks are going to win the series, but Knicks -1.5 at home in a must-win tonight feels really easy to me. If I were to put any of my own money on a game the next couple nights, that would be it. Knicks -1.5. I think they're going to win fairly comfortably tonight. That's my thought. And what's yours for Thursday? Did you say it already?
Thursday, well, other than the Bucks beating Miami,
Yeah.
Denver +3.5, -106. I still really like Denver even without Murray. And I have not been a believer in Portland all year. They haven't beat good teams consistently all year.
They can't play any defense. Not a lick. So, yeah, I'm with you. I wouldn't bet that game because I think the variance in those games is outrageous, but you might as well take the points in a game that's a coin flip every time. So that makes sense to me. All right. Family fiasco. Got anything for us?
Oh, I don't have a great one this week, but we're going to be really quick. So I am doing demo at our house, and we have slowly accumulated a ridiculous amount of trash that has just been dumped in the boathouse. So I got home from vacation in Florida last week on Friday, and I spent 8 hours after sleeping like 1 hour before a super early flight, carrying trash up from my boathouse up these cement stairs around this corner, having to jog around the garage and then put it in the garage. And then we were supposed to have a dump trailer coming first thing on Saturday morning because we had plans all day on Saturday. I was in a huge hurry. Well, Friday night, I got the text, hey, I can't find the dump trailer. Probably not going to have it for you tomorrow morning. So I was like, okay, great. I'm going to turn my alarm off. Whatever, we'll deal with it next week. We just won't park in the garage. Shows up with a dumpster an hour late as I'm laying in bed at 8:30. It's dumpster. It's not a dump trailer. I have to huck everything into the dumpster. I can't just set it in the trailer.
Oh.
So I'm loading for like an hour and a half. I conned some friends to come over. Thank you, Scott. If you listen to this, probably won't, but I appreciate it. So we load everything in. At this point, I'm supposed to be at lunch for one of my good friends' 30th birthdays in 20 minutes. So I've got to go to the dump, unload, get back, shower, get to the restaurant. It's clearly not going to happen.
No.
We get to the dump, and I had to stop once on the way there because the dump trailer had a cover. You didn't have to cover everything. The dumpster doesn't have a cover. So we had to like huck some stuff back into this dump truck. We pull in, there's a cop just sitting across the road. And as we pull in, we hear just bam. We had a huge board, which was part of the cement the main support that we put the beam in our living room. So it's this massive board that we had taken out, just smoked the side of this building as we're pulling in to get weighed. So this cop pulls out, we get pulled over in the weighing station.
Oh my.
Pulls us over and goes, hey, just meet me up there. I'm sure you know what just happened. Like, okay, awesome. This is not my vehicle. This is my trash, but I don't know what to do here. Pull up. They fine us at the weighing station. Tell us if you ever come back here again without it covered, you can't come back. It's $160. Second time it's only $5 fine. We get pulled over. The guy goes, hey, I'm sure you just got fined there. What did you get fined? I won't fine you if you got fined. I was like, yes. Fined us $5. He goes, oh, it's going to be $180 with me. So good for you, but your license plates are expired.
Jeez.
It's a dealer plate. It's a dealer vehicle. And it turns out that they actually had renewed them just under the new business name, and we were fine. So we didn't get fined at all. But I was, needless to say, about an hour and a half late to lunch.
Yeah, were anybody even still there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the restaurant we were trying to go to actually didn't open for like 40 minutes after we were supposed to show up. So,
all right,
turned out just fine.
Well, that'll work. My feeling fiasco is that it's preemptive feeling fiasco. I am taking the girls on a flight way early in the morning on Saturday. They have to wear masks the whole time, of course. And I already know it's going to go terrible. So just look forward to that next week. I'm sure I'll have some stories. But they can't wait to go see Grandma and Grandpa. So next week we'll be filming I'll be in Iowa for our podcast, unless the Clippers win all their games. Then we're canceling. So that's kind of fiasco for the week. And you got any recommendations for us before we go?
Yeah, I've got two because I watched no NBA on Sunday and watched 5 movies. So I've got 2 movies to recommend for you. The first is called Vast as the Night, which is set in the 1950s. It's actually really, really good. Not really profanity or anything in this one. It is about a 1950s radio jockey and this high school student that's super obsessed with basically radio and recording tech and everything. And they come across this basically like a strange audio broadcast that they think is the Soviets coming through the radio station. I'm not going to ruin the rest of it, but it's really good. And it's really well shot. It's kind of like an artistic-ish, but it's really cool. I don't know that I would call it a family movie because it's still pretty intense, but there's no ridiculousness in it. Second one is a little more intense, called Possessor. This is a Brandon Cronenberg movie. It's actually his first. If you know who David Cronenberg is, he's known for making the weirdest movies of all time. Think The Fly. This is his son's first movie, and it is equally weird, but it's actually really good. It's about this basically a body plant VR that allows this company to take control of other people and kind of obviously manipulate them for their business based on whatever their contract says. So it's kind of about blurring the lines between control of consciousness, and it was really interesting, but also very intense.
Yeah, sounds like it, but interesting. All right, I got TV shows. One, an oldie, and this is not going to be for everyone, but this is our high school years. Chappelle's Show.
Ooh.
It's on HBO Max, so I've been watching a few episodes. It's the best. It's hysterical, but it's
5 greatest rappers of all time.
Dial on. Because I spit hot fire.
Spit hot fire.
Yeah, I said to a kid the other day, I said, you can't just they were like grabbing some other kid. I said, you can't choke out your problems. I have no idea what I was talking about. But anyhow, just shut down the studio again. I did watch that one just the other day. I made Emily watch that one with me. And then we started watching a show, and it's a little intense, but it's a show that's on Crackle called Startup. And it popped up on Netflix because the third and final, what looks like probably will be the final season, came out on there. And it's got the guy that played the Hobbit. What's his name? I can't ever remember. Martin something, not Lawrence, but it's really interesting, and it has a lot of twists and turns, and a lot of people are dying these days in this show, but it's really interesting. I won't give much of it away because if I start talking about it, but it's an interesting show, pretty good. And so those are my recommendations this week, or just watch The Office. That would be my other recommendation. Or yes, the newest, latest Beavis and Butthead. You can't go wrong.
Called the D. It's also Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman, that's it. Good one. All right. It was requested that I talk a little more about what baseball cards I'm buying right now. This will be very short, but I actually have some legit advice. The baseball card market, as I think a lot of markets are going to start doing this, is starting to take a downturn because the government's not just handing people money anymore. And so if you are buying cards to make money and you're buying a lot of base rookie cards, stop doing that, because that's the stuff that's going to go down, because there's a lot of it. If you want to invest or try to figure out what gives you the best shot on return of investment, you got to buy rarer cards like this. This is a Ronald Acuna negative rookie refractor, PSA 10. This is a less rare, but still a refractor, a parallel. And then something like this. This is not a cheap card, but this is a X-Fractor, number to 99, PSA 10 rookie. This is the kind of stuff that even in a recession is kind of recession-proof, because there's just so little of it and everybody wants it. You're not going to get hurt on that stuff. So that's my advice to you right now. By the way, we mentioned earlier things I hate a couple weeks ago about a guy offering me $150 for a card, and I was annoyed about it. That card sold for $2,700, so I was right to be annoyed, and that was kind of cool. But anyhow, baseball cards should be fun. So unless you're really like legit investing, just collect what you want. It should be fun to look through your cards. I love even though we sell, that's what we do. I love looking through the stuff that we've bought because I love cards. And that's what I'm going to Iowa to work on for the next week. So,
and just pray that you don't spend your entire childhood collecting Alex Rodriguez. That is then worth nothing.
And that's my point exactly. Collect what you want. I still love the Alex Rodriguez cards that we had, but if we were going to make any money, that ship has sailed long ago, for sure. But if we had collected Griffey, Kyle, we would be in good shape. Good shape. So, all right. Well, I think that's it. Early afternoon version. Should be up tonight, and probably by tomorrow night, all of our bets will be wrong. So you can take a look at that. And thank you to everybody who's listening. It's really been fun to engage with people who listen and talk about stuff. So shoot us a line on what you think, or if you think we're idiots. It's something we already know, so we'll just agree with you.
Yeah, you'd be correct. And if you have a topic that you want us to do and you want to be a guest, make a comment. We'll have you on.
Yeah, come on. We'd love to have you. So unless you're a Tom Brady fan, get out of here. We're not doing that. That's all. Or a Clippers fan, which I don't know anyone who is. So, all right. Good to talk to you. See you from Iowa next week.
See ya.